I'm so tired. But the tent is up, so that's cool. Ended up using all of my isobutane last night and crossing my fingers that I don't hit a rainstorm again. Hello, beautiful people. My name is Amanda Zitto. If you are new here, I make motorcycle travel vlogs, how-tos, and general encouragement for you to get out and do the thing. In my quest for finding early season camping, I found a heat bubble happening around the Umatilla area of the Columbia River Gorge and decided to try my chances at a campground right on the river. I booked a site online, and lo and behold, it was raining once it was time to leave. Rain that was not supposed to be there. I could have just stayed home, but I convinced myself that it might not be raining further down the gorge and pushed myself to get out and do the thing. My gear kept me dry for the most part, although about 2 hours in, I was starting to feel a bit chilled, and when I stopped for a bathroom break, I realized that some water had worked its way down my sleeve, into my glove, pulled at my wrist, and my layers under my jacket had absorbed that liquid all the way up to my elbows, which kind of explains why I was chilled. Now, any reasonable person probably would have turned around at this point, because riding with wet clothes, well, it sucks. It sucks a lot. And riding with wet clothes when it is very cold in early spring, that's not a great idea. Did I turn around? No, I did not turn around. I kept going. When I arrived at the campground and my campsite that I had reserved online specifically because it had a beautiful view of the gorge, I realized my terrible mistake. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the Columbia River Gorge, it is notorious for some heckin' strong winds, and my campsite was pretty much wide open to those winds. And when the campground host came to check on me, I told her that I was going to sit and decide my fate, and I would let her know if I was going to stay or not, because I was genuinely concerned about my tent in the strong wind. And she said, "Okay, honey, you do what you need to do." And I did what I often do when I'm trying to make a tough decision between something easy and something hard. I called my mom. And my mom, being the eternal source of wisdom that she is, told me to go eat something. So I got back on the bike, and in the process of exiting the campground, I spotted a couple other sites that had wind barriers, like actual structures to block the campsite from the wind. And I told my mom this, and my mom told me that I should go and ask the campsite host if I could move sites. Now, obstinate me was like, I probably won't be able to because I had to reserve it online. But I asked anyway. The campground host was so nice and was very accommodating and let me move sites. However, I was not looking at the site when I told her which one I wanted. And unfortunately, I told her the wrong one. And me, being the stubborn person that I am, didn't want to bother her again, so I decided to set my tent up in the site that I had chosen, which coincidentally didn't have the structure in the right positioning to actually block me from the wind. I went through the whole process of setting up my tent before one of the other campers came over in their truck and asked me if I wanted a tarp or something extra to try to block the wind from my tent. And I confided in them that I had wanted to move to the other site that had the wind structure and the correct positioning that would have protected me from the wind, but I didn't want to bother the campground host again. And they told me that I was being silly and that they were going to go tell the campground host that I was going to move to the next site and that she would come and check on me. So I moved to the next site that actually had the structure blocking the wind the way that I needed it to, and I am so glad that I moved. There was a little bit of a gap underneath of the structure that allowed a lot of wind in, but not nearly as much as I was contending with in the previous 2 sites. So yes, I moved sites 3 times, set up my tent twice. I knew that there was no winning. I was either going to be comfortable and find a hotel room but feel guilty for not sticking it out, or be uncomfortable but do what I set out to do. I opted for being uncomfortable. I'm so tired, but the tent is up, so that's cool. Wow, it's so windy outside. Oh, I still have to make food. Maybe I'll lay here for a minute first. Yes, I knew I would be cold. Yes, I was uncomfortable. My whole body hurt from being tensed up riding through the rain for 3 hours, and a lot of me wished I was in my comfortable bed at home. But anytime I do these things where I'm uncomfortable in the moment, when it passes and I get home, I am so glad that I did it, and I am so proud of myself for getting through it. I think a huge part of perseverance and getting through stuff that feels hard is remembering that once it's over, it feels so much farther away in your mind. All the parts that were hard and the parts that made you want to give up, once it's over and you get through the obstacle, you remember so much more vividly that you got through it. Overcoming the small inconveniences and being uncomfortable for the experience of being outdoors and getting outside and doing that however you choose to do it is pretty much always worth it, short of any life-threatening incidents. Knowing it's going to be worth it gets me through so many things because I have already done this. I have been uncomfortable before. I know that it will end, and I know I will get through it. There is life on the other side of whatever this thing is my brain is making out to be much bigger than it is, and I will get through it. And 9 times out of 10, it will be worth it. For the record, my sleeves did dry out by the time that I set up my tent the second time. I was not shivering. I had no signs of hypothermia. I was cold, but I wasn't dangerously cold. Actually, once I crawled into my sleeping bag and got all nice and cozied up, I actually had to take layers off because I was too warm. So I'm going to call that a win. Tip for sleeping in a tent when it is windy AF. Headphones. The good kind with like the double flangey thing, so it actually blocks out noise. Ended up using all of my isobutane last night because the wind was so bad, so heading the last 30 or so miles to Umatilla to get breakfast this morning, and then hauling butt back to Portland. And crossing my fingers that I don't hit a rainstorm again, because that would be cool. I would like to not have to ride through that rainstorm again, but still pretty tired. Woke up a couple times, but I was never cold actually, so I've got that going for me. I actually had to take off layers last night, which was awesome. I didn't think that was going to be the case because I felt kind of chilled when I got into my sleeping bag, but between all of my clothes and my heated gear and my favorite down sleeping bag, I was pretty toasty all night. And my rumple. I brought my rumple. I feel like this is going to be a thing that I bring on pretty much all my trips now. Oops. No, I probably won't bring it on summer trips. My sleeping bag will be plenty. Anyway, I'm rambling because I know that I won't be able to talk to you since I get out of the tent because the wind will be too bad. Well, it's probably going to take me longer to pack everything up because of the wind, so I should get my butt up and moving because I'm supposed to be out of here by 11. And the sooner I get up and packed, the sooner I can go get tea and breakfast at the truck stop in Umatilla. Traditions. Oh, here we go. I hope that you guys enjoyed this video and got something out of it. Make sure that you hit that like and subscribe button if you did. Huge shout out to my patrons on Patreon. They make these videos possible. I would not be able to do this without them. If you would like to support the channel for as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to videos like these ad-free before the rest of the world over on my Patreon. Links down in the description. If that's not up your alley, that is totally okay. I also have an Etsy and a Redbubble store. For my US peeps, Etsy is where you can find stickers, prints, and original art hand packaged and sent to you by me. For my international folks, Redbubble is probably just going to be the easiest and cheapest shipping option for you internationally. I'm working on it. If you cannot support me monetarily right now, that is absolutely okay. I appreciate you guys just for being here every single week. And question for my end screen crew. And this one comes from my mom. Thanks, Mom. Who do you call for wisdom? Or, if you don't, how far do you ride for breakfast? Thanks, guys. I'll see you later.